What are the cycles fathers pass down that sons are left to heal? What if being a man wasn't about holding it all together, but learning how to let go? This is a space where men speak truth and find the power to heal and transform. I'm Mike Della Rocha. Welcome to Sacred Lessons. Welcome to Sacred Lessons. I'm Mike Della Rocha. This episode will shed light on how we can heal through culture, art, and ancestral remembrance. Today's guest intimately knows this path. Writer, poet, healer, and community organizer, my dear mentor, Luis J. Rodríguez. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you, my brother. Yeah. I'm so glad to be here.
As fathers, you're never supposed to have favorite children.
No.
But this is going to be one of my favorite episodes already.
Okay.
Just because of the role that you continue to play in my life. We met almost 30 years ago, which is a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I've grown so much because of your guidance and just watching you and being around you and Trini and the whole community. And I just want to humbly say thank you so much for all that you do for me and so many others,
No, I think you give a meaning to who we are as older people. Some people might call us elders. Mostly we're elders. But I think working with young people who have that energy, who have that commitment, at least self-commitment, and are open is really a powerful thing when you're this age. And you're one of those people who are there and committed, and I've seen you do this great work. So,
thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Well, let's jump into it. Yeah. For folks that don't know who you are, coming from East Los Angeles, can you just give a synopsis of, how did Luis 2025 become the Luis of 2025?
So I think I have to start with when my first memoir was running. I was a very troubled young man. I was in gangs. I was on heroin. I was in and out of jails, juvenile facilities. I was homeless for 3 years. That's enough to say nobody wants anything to do with him. And that's the way the world was. I was fortunate that I got, I want to say saved. It's hard to say if that's the right word. I got pulled by the Chicano movement, which I know your father was part of. I got pulled by that movement for just social justice and change. Maybe other things pull people, but that's what got me out. When you're on heroin, very few things can pull you. I know Jesus Christ has helped some people. Islam has helped people, but I know for me, it was a social justice Chicano movement. And so I changed my life to become kind of commensurate to what the movement was asking of me. Letting go drugs, letting go. Eventually drinking, I drank for 20 years on top of the drugs, but I had to let that go. And to really commit to being a voice, because we didn't have hardly any voices. And the thing with me is I always read. Even when I was a troubled young man, I would go to libraries. That was my refuge. I would carry books to the barrio. Nobody made fun of me, but that was my thing. And that helped me think that maybe I could write books, because I think being able to tell our story versus others telling our story was very important for me.
Yeah, I just got to channel something.
Yeah.
You walked into the studio with a bag of books.
Yeah, no.
And then you just talked about, as a young person, you always walked around with a bag of books. And a story that my dad and you were organizing together in the Chicano movement. Yeah. There was a bank building in UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And he was running with a bag of books, jumping over things. And it was funny because you would think you just got to get away from the police or military.
Right.
And you throw everything out. But what mattered to him most was the books.
I'm going to tell you a story. My family didn't care for me in the books. They thought I was working class. Get a job. Don't worry about books. Don't worry about art. But I gravitated towards art, photography, and books. And then I became a writer, and my parents everybody's like, forget it, he's lost cause. It's kind of weird, but that's the way it was. Well, anyway, when I became successful, my mom came to me years after with 4 books that my grandfather had written. She says, I never wanted to show it to you because I didn't want to encourage you. Wow. But now that you're doing so well, I want you to know your grandfather wrote books in Mexico. Can you imagine? Wow. I mean, there are seeds and things that we don't always know. Why I got into language, why I became a book writer. It wasn't a Chicano thing in that we were working class people, but it was a Chicano thing in that we needed to speak out. We needed to tell our story. And of course, there was Lona de Cervantes, Jose Montoya, there was Sanders Cisneros, there was all these writers that popped out to tell the story. So I really appreciated my mom after years and years of constantly putting me down and realizing that this is my path, this is my passion.
And then it's 17, correct? 17
I got
books?
17 books
And
now.
an 18th coming.
And the 18th, and then I also have I have 2 more books I got my agent working on. I also have a bookstore at Teachucha Centro Cultura and bookstore. So books have been with me for a long time. Even when people saying books are going, people are more on the internet, whatever. I don't believe it. I think books are still necessary. I think people need to have books.
They are. And then let me take it back to, not only are you Los Angeles's first ever poet laureate.
I think I was the second one, but yeah.
Well, you'll be mine.
Yeah.
But your book, and I don't know if it's still true, but most checked out stolen book in American libraries, and it's always running.
Right.
But you're well, at least for me, Luis, your first book that you're most known for is really a love letter to your son.
Right. A very important part of the story. My son had did close to 15 years in prison, 13 and a half year stretch the last time. I was trying to be a dad to him, and I lost it. I wasn't the dad that he needed or wanted. I had learned a lot because I had a dad that was also very detached, emotionless. I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. And I realized that, you know what, I'm not going to make up for what I in the past. But I remember when he was sitting in prison, I told him, because we finally got close when he was in prison, which is really sad, but we got really close. I told him, I'm going to ride this roller coaster through hell with you. And we're going to be there. I'm going to be there for every step of the way. I'm going to visit you in prison. I'm going to write you letters, but we're going to do it together. And I'm sorry that I wasn't there for you when I was there, but let's start now. It's an invitation. He took it. My daughter did the same thing. They okay, let's start now. I don't recommend parents wait till their kids are in prison to do this, but now me and my son are very close. Me and my daughter are close. So it's like you can never stop doing that. You can never stop being a father, even if it's late. I have to admit, I messed up when I was younger, but let me start now. And they've been very good. They could have just said drop dead and I would accept it. They've been very good to say, okay, let's start.
What was that process of you? Because I hear there's like a forgiveness to yourself, and then an invitation to also be forgiven. What was that?
You know, I think the main thing is to know that I had a friend of mine who was a good teacher. I have a lot of teachers, but one of them was saying, you know, there's 3 spirits that you kind of enter the world with. One is from family spirit, genealogy, family dynamics, all this stuff. It comes with you. Your parents are born a certain way and everything else. The other one's ancestors. The ancestors are always there. You can call on them, and they're always with you. So you're never really ever alone. You always can call on them. But the third one is your own. That spirit that never has been here before. That unique spirit that you have to take care of. That nobody else is going to see like you. And so I mentioned that because I think that's what I had to learn, that I needed to make sure that that spirit that I was born with, as a whole and complete human being, that got messed up with a bunch of other stuff coming in, that I had to make sure that spirit was properly taken care of and nurtured so that I could be the best father, the best writer, the best husband, the best community member I could be. Because I think all of us need to do that. It's unique to everyone, so you got to know it very well. It's different than all the other spirits that are with us.
And let me ask you, with that being said, you and I have done a lot of work in prisons and in these institutions that are designed to break spirit.
Exactly.
Especially those 3 spirits you were just talking about. Yeah. But you reconnecting with your son in a dungeon, for all intents and purposes, in a cage, that's one of the most vulnerable acts a father can do with the son, and yet you did it in this space. Yeah. What was that like? And was that, obviously that was the only choice you had, but...
Well, obviously a father doesn't want his son in prison and doesn't want to see his son like that. But unlike some parents, like my parents threw me out of the house when I was 15, I get it. I don't even complain about it. They did the right thing, I think. I couldn't do that with my son. When he was in the gang, I thought of it. The book always, when he starts, where I'm thinking I'm going to push him out, but I couldn't. And I had to go and be his dad, even though I wasn't good at it. Finally, when he's sitting in prison, made all his mistakes, we could then slow down. The prison kind of helped him in many ways because he would have been dead or killed somebody. He got into violent felonies. He shot at somebody that almost died and at 2 police officers, very serious things. But my son in prison, it kind of slowed everything down. So you took advantage of that, but it's still a dungeon. It's still prison. So one of the things I tell the guys that I work with, I've been working in prison for 44 years and working with my son, is we got to give you the keys of liberation even when you're behind bars, because you don't need to be in prison in your mind. Your mind has got to be free no matter where you're at. Helping people learn that and know how to keep that going. My son had to learn to be free in his mind enough to that. And I use art, I use writing, I use critical thinking, anything that can help us do that, because eventually he was going to get out like a lot of people. And I want him to be self-driven and self-responsible so that they don't go back to what they were, but can actually help bless the community and not curse it like a lot of people can do.
And, one thing I was excited to ask you, because I'm really interested to know your thoughts on, I actually think the first AI is actually spirit.
Yeah.
It's all knowing. It's always around. You can access it if you know the tools. And we're in this time of changing gender norms. Yeah. But also upheaval in the sense of our systems are breaking down. Yeah, and we see it and we're a part of it. Yeah. And what do you tell men that are feeling like, I'm supposed to protect, I'm supposed to provide. My worth is defined by how productive I am. Right. But in a time when none of that stuff is actually making sense, so then you're wanting to control and dominate others, women, men, others more. What is your medicine that you give them? What do you say to men like that?
Well, one, I think you got to link that kind of thinking, that patriarchal thinking, to their own disease. Men are suffering because they're mutated. They're mutated by society, capitalism, whatever, patriarchy, all these things mutate us. We're not fully human. And what I tell people is the indigenous way of looking at things is to value all life. All of us belong. Women obviously belong. And not only that, they're given a special place because they bear the babies, they have to raise the babies, but they're also the wisest sections of society are the women. They have a natural ceremonial life. Men have to learn ceremony outside of that. But I think that when you recognize that, then you realize that we can be, as human beings, we need those energies, the feminine and masculine, and not as strict binaries, obviously, but as a spectrum that constantly is in our lives. And to know that all of us carry it. Now, I might have a male body and whatever, but I have a lot of feminine energy. And I have to draw on it. It allows me to be imaginative, to be sensitive. It allows me to be very artistic and creative. But creative also needs male energy. You can't have one without the other. So I think if people can get the proper perspective, they realize that's what makes all life. That's what the Mexica indigenous people would call Ometel. It's not, again, the binary is just to say that creation requires feminine and masculine, and it requires it to be in proper relationships so that all life can happen. And of course, there's life that can happen with just feminine. There's a lot of manifestations. You can't just put it in a box. But for the most part, that's what guides us, and that's what's in all of us. Mm-hmm. If men could tap into their feminine, and feminine is energy, not necessarily female. But if they feel female, that's fine. I think what the world's understanding is that if spirit is calling you, what is it calling you to be, and including the kind of gender or the kind of place you need in this world, we got to allow it. It's got to be given space. We can't have a world in which we're constantly putting people in boxes. We're all suffering. We're all alienated from it. Men are being told that the best way to be a man is to subdue women, basically. That's the message. And we need to break away from that poison because it's actually poisonous in our spirit.
So you define I want to call them the attributes of a feminine energy. What are those attributes of the masculine energy?
Well, for example, if feminine is more like imaginative, reflective, design, thinking about these things, then the masculine in general is the implementation. So feminine is actually primary. It's like people say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Obviously, the design came first. Anything's by design. Every bit of life had a design in its cell. Feminine is always that part. But then you can't further life unless it gets interjected or met with the part of the masculine that will allow it to be realized. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you need both. And so I tell people the masculine is not primary, secondary, but necessary. You can't have one without the other. The Navajo call it the lightning thing, that the men are like a lightning bolt. They come in when they need them, but then women carry it further. women are the main ground of life and everything. Men come in, and so they got to come in a good way. They got to understand that. You know what I mean? Not to subdue, not dominate. They got to understand there's a place for me, but you got to give that ground to the women and the feminine, because it's not just women, it's not just the body, it's also the feminine, in order to have a proper fruition. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Nature teaches you this. And so I think that's what we learn from nature. Nature teaches this is how this goes, so we can incorporate it in ourselves.
So what is your analysis with, I agree, and we're both organizers and activists and writers, this current age we're living in, is that a response to the truth of what you just said?
Yeah.
Or what is your analysis of it?
You know, one thing I learned, a wise man would say, in the midst of chaos, wise people find patterns. I know it's hard to imagine. It's chaotic. Where's the pattern? But they actually can figure out there's a pattern here. I think something's dying and something new is trying to get born. So we're seeing a lot of old stuff that's being brought up again. Racism is being brought up again. Gender politics is being brought up again. Anti-women, I think it's anti-women. It's not just anti-feminine, but anti-women is being brought up again. It's because part of society is dying. Those old ways, those old forms. And so to me, we're at a cusp of transformation. But transformation is different than change. Mm-hmm. You actually get rid of the form that's been holding you back and liberate the content. The content is our humanity, the fullness of it. It needs to be liberated. It's being held by all these old things that have held us. Now, I think this is what we're facing. I don't know how long it's going to last, but the last squalls of a dying way of being. Right. But that means that we, as people that can see that, have an obligation to help build a new foundation. And even Tia Chucha is part of that. Even the work you're doing, it's all part of that new foundation. The beloved community, everything we're doing, we're creating part of that new foundation. So when things die, we have something that we can say we're building on. So that's what I feel is what we have to do. Things are dying, and it looks ugly. It looks terrible. Cops and ICE people in our neighborhoods, concentration camps, kidnappings, masked men, all kinds of things that, wow, I hadn't seen this since Germany or whatever. But it's been going on in our country, and it's been going on in Latin America. But the point is, it's all going to go away. Something's dying, something new to be born. So I say we have to be the midwives for the new. We have to help that new get born. And I think that's the main job that all of us, as spiritual beings, as people with radical ideas, radical thinking, radical living, can we bring that new birth in the world.
In the world. And I know what I've always learned from you is that the key building blocks, if you will, I'd say it's like three things, and not in any order, but one is I've always learned just knowing culture and the cultural practices and traditions, finding your tribe, your community. And then the third thing I'd say is just nature, which is connected to the culture. Can you elaborate on that? Because I've learned more about who I am as a Tarahumara, Chicano, Mexicano from you more than anyone else in my life. Yeah. And ironically, we're both from the same part of Mexico too. Yeah. I'll get into that later, but that saved me really. And it's all connected.
Yeah, because we're disconnected. We're alienated from our roots, alienated from who we are. So we feel powerless, hopeless, helpless, and meaningless after a while. That's why some people would join gangs, get into drugs. I want to die now, all kinds of things. What I found that there's 4 key connections that we need to get to. One is connecting with nature. Nature is our best university, our best thing to learn, and it's all over. We don't know the trees, we don't know the plants. Nature has all the healing in there, but it's also poisonous. You got to know nature from both the bad and good, but know it very well. That's what our elders teach us. The other thing is know your own nature. What are you here to do? What are you about? What's your passions? You're different. You're something unique. How do you live the life you're meant to live? It's a very important thing and process. And they're all intricate, but they're all together, they're all connected. 3, learn the nature of relationships. I mean, first of all, we're part of the universe. We are universe, stardust, the whole thing, but we're also got relations with everything. Some guy came and knocked on my door and says, we want to get rid of all the wasps and spiders around your house. I go, no, I need them. They're actually important. Now, I don't want a wasp on my porch where they're going to,
Right.
but I do think, I don't get rid of them. That's what they do in our suburbs. We only get rid of them. I need them. Okay, in other words, that we're connected to everything. So relationships are important, especially between us as human beings. Not race, not gender politics, not human being heart to heart. We need more of that. And the last one is connection to the divine. And this is a tricky one because we've had many religions, we have many belief systems. I don't think this is a belief system. I don't think it's about a religion. I'm not against people that have it. All power to them. If it helps them live decent lives, I'm fine. But it's more about just feeling it. You were talking about the intuition that spirit is with us all the time. And the divine can come from doing art, from doing the things you love, or even raising a kid. It can come in the church if that's where it comes to you, but it can come sit next to a tree. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The divine is always there, open to you if you know how to just be intentional and be there for it. So you need to have those connections because it's the world behind the world. We need to know how to get it. Not to say that you're going to be a spiritual being in the sense that when you're past, you become part of spirit. I'm saying that you got to have a portal where spirit and the real material world intersect. And that's how you live your life. I mentioned that because I had a near-death experience when I was like 16. I saw the light. I never read about this. I saw that tunnel. I know from what I felt, when you pass, you enter the most beautiful, beautiful light. I can't explain it. There's no words for what I felt, but it wasn't my time. I came back. My homeboys breathed into me back, my chest. They brought me back. I wasn't meant to die then, but I still have that feeling. So I know I'm not afraid of death. I know that it's a elevation, escalation of whatever my spirit is in my body. I take care of my body because I want to be around as much as I can, but I know that when it happens, I'm going to be in a good place. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what's important. It's going to be a good place. I don't want to give it like some people say, heaven is no pain. I always tell people, some people describe heaven like a heroin high, you know? And I don't know. Mysteries are important. We don't know the answer, but we do know that we're going to be back into this ancestral realm, as some people call it. And it's going to be the most amazing thing because I saw it, even for a little bit. So I'm not scared of dying. I just want to make sure that I make the most of the material conditions I've been given and the material body and mind and everything I have so that I can actually help this world get better about living and dying.
Yeah, we're so afraid, especially in the West, of death because we think it's a finality.
Yeah.
But then, like we're saying, once you transition to an ancestral world, you're still present.
You call on ancestors. Like I said, their spirits are with you. We have all the ancestors with us. And we don't open up to it. But I get the sense that they're there. I never thought about this, but even when I was young, I didn't know. They helped me make decisions, intuition. They helped me turn that way instead of this way. Maybe sometimes some people didn't turn right and they're gone. You never know how that's going to work out, but I've been fortunate that I kind of followed my intuition. And you're talking about gangs, being shot at, talking about being in and out of jails, homeless, on heroin. I could have gone any time as a teenager, and yet somehow I made it this far. And I know that spirit has been there with me, ancestral spirit, I'm saying. This is why I'm saying I call on all these spirits, but I also know the one I got to take care of is the one that I bring to the world.
So that's the relationship to the outdoors and nature.
Yeah.
The relationship to your own nature.
Yeah.
Relationship to others.
Yeah.
And relationship to the divine.
Yeah.
And that dance between all four of those.
That's exactly right.
And then would you argue, or not argue, but would you say then life is a journey of mastering, if we ever can master those relationships, and that's when you become godlike, essentially?
I think so, and I love the word mastery. People have misused it and misapplied it. But I think it's I always tell people it's going from misery to mastery. And I've been through the misery. Yeah. But I think the mastery is about, when you say your art, you're always thinking about the mastery of what your art is. You're going to be good at it. When I became a writer, I couldn't just say, I'm going to write whatever I want. I had to learn how to write, and I didn't go to college, university. I took college classes. East L.A. College was my alma mater, even though I never graduated from there. But the point is, the mastery of your own life is really the most important thing. I tell people, you're the masterpiece that you need to really be good at. All the art in the world, the main thing is you yourself. are also an art project. You yourself are art.
Yeah.
Be that masterpiece that you were meant to be. So in that sense, I look at mastery, not mastery like I'm better than others
Right,
or
yeah.
whatever. It's be knowledgeable and aware, but also knowing that I am at the very best at every time in my life for what I am, because it always changes and it's always new. And you're never like, I'm done. It's you're always trying to get better at things.
Let me ask you this. I'm trying to follow in the Luis J. Rodríguez footsteps in a lot of ways. And I've been traveling on tour with this book for the last 3 months. And I've been sharing, I haven't gone into a city, and I'm talking urban, rural, reservation, non-reservation, South, Midwest, East, West Coast, that I haven't met a man that wasn't in pain.
Yeah.
Or grieving. And that grief could be the collective grief of like things dying and something new being reborn, but there is a pain that's palpable. What do you tell men or young men or just men that feel alone, the sense of alone and pain and not having an outlet to process?
Well, this is where I think our traditions help, because they always were talking about the collectivity of trying to address healing. You can heal by yourself, but the collective, the community part is so important. And when community is involved, even the one person is being healed like a patient, we're going to help this person. The whole community heals. And even more, the ancestral realm heals. I had an elder that says they're constantly needing healing too. Correct. I mean, the way idea is that everybody's in a healing circle, spiral. I guess it's a spiral. When we're healing, everybody's healing. And the ancestors step up when you're that. If they see you in poison and messed up, they really, I say they, because these are spirits that they kind of, they're not there for you. They're not going to be there. But I know that when you step into that healing path, however it is, even just trying to get your whatever tradition or whatever artistic gift you have, the angels, you might say, or the ancestors come out. And they bring in forces and things to step in to that gap that you had. So I tell people, the pain is life. Pain is trying to tell you something. You can't get rid of it. I thought I can get rid of pain with heroin, and people do all that. No, I learned to stop drinking and heroin because I said, pain is life, life is pain. But you also can get joy there. The problem with drugs is you get rid of the pain and the joy. You don't have any of it. If you do it properly, adequately, fully, get some joy. So the rage and pain goes through a cycle where it has to go through the streams of sorrow. Sorrow is underneath everything. But you don't want to go so deep in that grief that you can't get out of it. So you ride it like a stream. And once the stream keeps going, you're going to get a beautiful place of joy. Always it's rage, pain, sorrow. Get to the depth of why you're feeling the way you're doing. And then keep riding it until you get to the joy. You'll probably repeat it again, but it's always a spiral that gets better and better and better each time. And again, drugs or whatever it is that people do to try not to be in pain is not going to help you, because the fullness of your joy is going to be matching the fullness of the kind of pain. And that's why all the traumas are portals. All the pains are portals, if you see it that way. They either can tear you down or they can get you to a portal where you can become a better, more transformed human being.
I mean, one of my favorite quotes that I live by is one of yours, where you've consistently told me, Mike, you have to go through the wound in order to properly heal.
Yeah.
And everything around us is trying to numb us from the wound or prevent the wound or not go to the sorrow, just stay with the pain and not get to the grief. And can you elaborate on that? Because that's a profound concept that, life is all these things. Right. So the more we accept and embrace it, but you have to go through that tough place in order to come out the reborn person.
Well, one of the great things that I learned is that next to the wound is their gifts. You can't even find your gifts unless you go through the wound. That's the hard thing. You think, well, I'm going to get my gifts. I don't want to go through all that. You got to go through the wounds of your life. Again, it's family. It's, what do you call it, generational traumas, whatever it is, whatever you're going through, but there is your gift. You will find your treasure. Where you stumble, you will find your treasure. And I think that that's the important part, because then the wound becomes a womb. Again, new birth, the new person. So the wound is how you're going to finally get into the womb where a new person, and it's a constant thing. We're being new all the time. We're being renewed all the time. And some people don't. Some people stay, even they get older, they still stay the same. We got to keep renewing. And I think that's where initiation comes. Initiation means a new thing is coming in. That's why you initiate something. So it's better if community was there, but even if community isn't there, you still got to initiate and you still got to find that new person. Be born again more than once. Born again, people say, well, I'm born again. Yeah, but you got to keep constantly going born again. So I think that's the key. Get to the womb, but don't just stay there. The womb will get you right next to your gifts.
Yeah. Sacred Lessons is a production of iHeart's My Cultura podcast network, Sacred Lessons Media, and the Prince Group. For more of your favorite shows, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.